The bell rings, and the crowd holds its breath. A left hook slices through the air, and a giant crumbles. An uppercut detonates, and a career ends in an instant. The arena erupts as another opponent lies flat on the canvas, unable to rise. These were not just punches, they were shockwaves that reverberated through the sport of boxing. Michael Gerard Tyson, better known as Mike Tyson, entered the professional ring in 1985 like a force of nature. From the very start, he was unlike anything the heavyweight division had ever seen. He tore through his first 19 opponents with knockouts, 12 of them ending in the very first round. Every entrance into the ring was a prelude to destruction, and every exit left the world buzzing about the man who seemed invincible. But beyond the highlights, beyond the chaos he created with his fists, lies the question that has fascinated fans for decades. How did Mike Tyson train, and how good was he really? How did a young fighter, barely out of his teens, rise so quickly and make even the most respected champions tremble? Before we dive into his story, make sure to subscribe so you never miss the unforgettable tales of boxing's greatest legends. Mike Tyson was born in Brooklyn, New York, on June 30th, 1966. His childhood was marked not by comfort or security, but by chaos. His father abandoned the family early, leaving his mother, Lorna May, to raise Mike and his siblings alone in one of the most violent neighborhoods in America. Poverty and crime were constant companions. By the age of 13, Tyson had already been arrested more than 30 times. He was a child adrift in a world that seemed designed to swallow him whole. Yet even in that troubled environment, there were glimpses of the raw power that would one day shake the boxing world. Tyson fought constantly in the streets, often against boys much older. His size was unusual. At 13, he already weighed close to 200 pounds. The anger, the fear, and the sense of abandonment gave him a ferocity that made him dangerous even before he ever entered a ring. His path shifted at the Tryon School for Boys, a juvenile detention center where a counselor named Bobby Stewart noticed his potential. Stewart was a former professional fighter, and he introduced Tyson to the fundamentals of boxing. More importantly, he introduced him to the man who would change Tyson's life forever, Cus D'Amato. Cus D'Amato was already a legend in boxing circles, having trained champions like Floyd Patterson. He was not only a trainer, but also a philosopher of the fight game, a man who believed that fear could be mastered and turned into fuel. After Tyson's mother passed away, Cus became his legal guardian, providing something Tyson had never truly known: structure, discipline, and belief. In the quiet town of Catskill, far removed from the violence of Brooklyn, D'Amato began reshaping Tyson. He taught him the peekaboo style, drilled him endlessly in movement, defense, and combinations, but also worked on his mind. Cus told Tyson that every fighter feels fear, but the difference lies in how it is used. Fear could paralyze, or it could sharpen. Tyson learned to transform fear into controlled aggression. The boy who once seemed destined for prison now had a new destiny. From the streets of Brooklyn to the gym of Catskill, he was no longer just surviving. He was being molded into a weapon, forged in hardship, refined by discipline. For Tyson, the lesson was clear. To live, he had to be stronger, faster, and more ruthless than anyone who stood in his way. The rise of Mike Tyson cannot be understood without looking at the way he trained, the discipline that was drilled into him, and the unique set of skills that made him different from every heavyweight before or since. Tyson was not just a big puncher. He was a product of one of the most demanding training systems in boxing history, shaped by the philosophy of Cus D'Amato and sharpened by the relentless work of Kevin Rooney. To understand how good Tyson really was, you must look at the three pillars of his greatness: his raw physical power, his technical and tactical skills, and the mental toughness that allowed him to become a force of nature in the ring. Tyson's body was built into a machine through brutal routines. His training began before dawn. At 4 o'clock in the morning, he would rise to run miles through the quiet streets, long before the world around him had woken up. After the run, he would return to the gym, where the real work began. Accounts from those who trained alongside him tell of calisthenic sessions that would break ordinary men. Tyson performed thousands of sit-ups daily, combined with push-ups, dips, and weighted shrugs to build the explosive strength that allowed him to generate knockout power in short bursts. Perhaps the most punishing exercise of all was the wrestler's bridge. Tyson would arch his neck and back, supporting his entire body weight on his head and feet, sometimes for minutes at a time. Over the years, this gave him a neck that measured nearly 20 inches around, a physical armor that absorbed blows and kept him balanced as he weaved under punches. The bridge was not just a physical test, it was a lesson in resilience. Although he stood only 1.78 meters, Tyson was shorter than most heavyweights, many of whom measured around 1.90 meters or taller, but his size became a weapon. He was built like a coiled spring, compact and explosive. Every muscle was trained to detonate on command. His lower height allowed him to slip beneath the punches of bigger men, close the distance in an instant, and strike from unexpected angles. When Tyson got inside, the fight was usually over. What separated Tyson from many sluggers of the past was not just his strength, but his technique. Under Cus D'Amato's tutelage, Tyson became the perfect embodiment of the peekaboo style. His hands were held high to protect his chin, while his head was constantly in motion, slipping left and right, bobbing and weaving. This made him a difficult target, even for taller fighters with long jabs. The peekaboo style allowed him to explode forward, slipping under punches and firing counters with terrifying precision. Kevin Rooney, who carried on D'Amato's vision after Cus passed away, refined Tyson's style with endless drills. Tyson trained in combinations that were numbered, drilled until they became second nature. Instead of thinking about what punch to throw, he would unleash a preset sequence of hooks and uppercuts delivered with such speed and accuracy that opponents had little chance to defend. The most devastating of these combinations often involved a left hook to the body, followed by a right uppercut to the chin. This two-punch sequence became Tyson's calling card, breaking down even the toughest defenses. Tyson's footwork was just as important as his hands. He fought from a low stance, knees bent, weight balanced, always ready to spring forward or pivot to the side. This base gave him the ability to close distance in an instant. Unlike many heavyweights who lumbered forward, Tyson glided across the canvas with a predator's agility. His ability to cut off the ring and trap opponents in the corner was unmatched. Once an opponent's back touched the ropes, Tyson would unleash a storm of punches, often ending the fight within seconds. Even the way Tyson entered the ring was part of his strategy. He stripped away the theatrics of robes and elaborate entrances. Instead, he walked to the ring in black trunks, black shoes without socks, and a towel with a hole cut in the middle draped over his shoulders. It was stark, intimidating, and symbolic. Tyson wanted his opponents to feel the fear before the first punch was thrown. He believed that intimidation was a weapon, and it often worked. Many fighters admitted later that they were already beaten before the opening bell. Tyson's physical training was brutal, but equally important was the psychological training instilled by Cus D'Amato. Cus believed that fear was the central emotion of boxing. He told Tyson that all fighters feel fear, but champions learn to use it. Fear could sharpen reflexes, increase focus, and create urgency. Tyson was taught to embrace fear, not to deny it. This philosophy allowed him to channel his emotions into raw aggression once the bell rang. At Catskill, Tyson lived under strict discipline. His life was reduced to a cycle of training, eating, sleeping, and studying boxing. He watched endless hours of fight films, learning from the greats who came before him: Jack Dempsey, Joe Louis, Sonny Liston, Muhammad Ali. Cus wanted Tyson to understand not only how to fight, but how to think like a fighter. He taught him that boxing was not only physical, but mental warfare, and that winning began with the belief that victory was inevitable. The result of this mental conditioning was clear. Tyson carried himself with a cold intensity. His stare across the ring was enough to sap the confidence of many opponents. Even seasoned fighters, men who had fought champions before, admitted that facing Tyson was different. There was a sense of inevitability, as though the fight was not about whether Tyson would win, but about how quickly he would finish the job. This discipline did not just produce knockouts, it produced consistency. During his prime years, Tyson fought often, sometimes every few weeks, and he came prepared each time. He did not just knock out journeymen, he dismantled ranked contenders, former champions, and undefeated fighters. His training allowed him to maintain a level of sharpness that few heavyweights could match. Put together, these elements made Tyson a phenomenon. His compact frame produced explosive power, his peekaboo style delivered that power with precision, and his mental discipline imposed fear before the first punch. He was not the tallest or longest-reached heavyweight, but he turned his physical build into an advantage. In his prime, he was the most complete and terrifying fighter the division had ever seen. An athlete who combined power, speed, technique, and psychological warfare in a way that few, if any, have matched. For all the stories about training and potential, greatness in boxing is ultimately judged in the ring. Mike Tyson's legend was built on nights when the lights were brightest and the world was watching. His defining fights not only showcased his power, but also revealed the qualities that made him unique. In November of 1986, Tyson faced Trevor Berbick for the WBC Heavyweight Championship. Berbick was a seasoned champion, but he was no match for the storm that entered the ring that night. Tyson dropped him in the second round with a barrage of hooks that left Berbick staggering around the canvas, trying and failing to rise. At just 20 years old, Tyson became the youngest heavyweight champion in history. The sight of Berbick collapsing again and again symbolized the arrival of a new era. The following year, Tyson continued his march toward complete domination. He defeated James "Bone Crusher" Smith to claim the WBA title and then outpointed Tony Tucker for the IBF belt. The Tucker fight was significant because it showed that Tyson was more than an early-round knockout artist. Tucker was tall, strong, and determined to survive. But Tyson's pressure and work rate carried him to a clear decision victory over 12 rounds. By the end of 1987, Tyson was the undisputed heavyweight champion, holding the WBC, WBA, and IBF titles simultaneously. Perhaps the most famous night of Tyson's career came in June of 1988 against Michael Spinks. Spinks was an undefeated former light heavyweight champion who had also claimed the heavyweight crown. The fight was hyped as the ultimate showdown, with millions watching worldwide. It ended in just 91 seconds. Tyson charged forward, cut the ring instantly, and landed a short right hand that left Spinks flat on his back. The bout generated an astronomical purse, but its brevity only added to Tyson's aura of inevitability. By the time he entered the ring against Spinks, Tyson's record stood at 34 wins, 30 with knockouts. Over his career, he would compile 50 victories, 44 by knockout, against only 6 defeats and 2 no contests. His knockout percentage remains one of the most fearsome in heavyweight history. These numbers were not abstract statistics. They were living memories for anyone who witnessed his fights. Every knockout carried the echo of his endless hours of training. Every victory was a demonstration that Tyson's power was not luck, but the product of discipline and skill. In those defining nights, Tyson proved that his greatness was real, forged in both preparation and performance. Mike Tyson's legacy cannot be measured only by belts or numbers. His true impact lies in the shadow he cast across the heavyweight division. For a stretch of years, Tyson was less a fighter and more a presence. Opponents often admitted they felt defeated before the first bell, overwhelmed not just by his power, but by the aura of inevitability he carried into the ring. His knockouts became permanent fixtures in boxing highlight reels. The sight of men twice his size collapsing from short, powerful punches is etched into the memory of fans around the world. ESPN once ranked him the hardest hitter in heavyweight history, and Sky Sports called him perhaps the most ferocious man ever to enter a ring. That reputation has endured long after his final fight, but Tyson's legacy extended beyond boxing. He became a cultural icon, appearing in video games like Punch-Out, inspiring characters in The Simpsons and Street Fighter, and later surprising audiences with his self-parody in films like The Hangover. He was both feared and celebrated, a symbol of raw strength and human vulnerability. Even with all the controversies, Tyson remains a legend. His story is a reminder that greatness in boxing is not only about victory, but about leaving an indelible mark on history and culture. Mike Tyson was more than a fighter. He was a force of nature, a storm that swept through the heavyweight division and left an indelible mark on the sport. At his peak, he combined speed, power, skill, and intimidation in a way that few, if any, have ever matched. He was a champion who not only defeated opponents, but often broke their will before the first punch was thrown. His record speaks volumes: 50 victories, 44 knockouts, and the honor of being the youngest heavyweight champion in history. Yet numbers alone cannot capture the essence of Tyson. His story is one of transformation, from a troubled boy in Brooklyn to a global icon whose name still sparks awe and debate. Tyson did not just beat his opponents, he forced the world to confront a simple, haunting question. Was there anyone alive who could truly withstand him at his best? His fists carried not only power but also the weight of fear, discipline, and legacy. So now the question passes to you. Do you think you could survive even a single round with Mike Tyson in his prime? If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more legendary boxing stories.